Hello, and welcome to NAFA's May edition of the Advisor Ambassador Program. My name is Zach Hewells, and I work in the Membership Marketing Department at the NAFA Home Office. Today, our host is Rodney Mogen from NAFA, Texas. Rodney has been very involved in NAFA, especially as a government relations liaison. Rodney will be discussing building your professional network of mentors and industry colleagues. Prior to the beginning of the presentation, if all the attendees can, and if you have any questions or comments, post them in the Zoom chat. We should have some time for Q&A at the conclusion of the presentation. Without further ado, take it away, Rodney.
All right, thanks, Zach. I appreciate the introduction and also the time to be able to be here. So, as Zach mentioned, my name is Rodney Mogen, and I'm going to be talking about building your professional network and center of influence. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, and we'll get more into my background here in a second. But today, I want to talk a little bit about how to build your professional network, but also your center of influences. And what we'll do is we'll talk about my background and how I really came up with some of these different things and how it helped my practice, but also how it helps a lot of the advisors I work with. We'll also talk about your vision and your mission. You've probably sat on some of these calls in the past with some of my friends, and they've always talked about a vision and a mission. And they've talked about finding your niche and finding what you want to do. Believe it or not, when it comes to building your professional network and finding your centers of influence, your vision and mission are extremely important so that you can find the right people and the right connections. Then we'll talk about what do you want to accomplish with your business, because you're going to want the right professional network that's going to help you accomplish what you want, and that ties back again to your vision and your mission. Then we'll talk about building your network. One of the greatest ways to build your network, and we'll talk more in detail about this in a little bit, but you're already on it. It's joining an association. It's being part of NAFA and going to meetings. In fact, I was just in DC last week advocating on not only my client's behalf, but also on your behalf and advisors' behalf across the country about retirement savings plans and getting some legislation passed. But guess what? Not only was I networking with congressmen and senators about getting this legislation done, I was with 600 of my best friends from NAFA doing the same thing. So I get to know additional people, and you really get to figure out what your network is and what you want in that network. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail, but one of the things I want you to think about is if you have a specific practice focus, maybe it's long-term care, and maybe you're working with 50-plus-year-olds, but remember those 50-plus-year-olds probably have kids. They might even have grandkids. Well, that might not be your specialty, but maybe you work with an advisor that works with young professionals. So understand that your network doesn't just have to be lawyers and CPAs and things like that. It can be a lot more people than you think. And then we'll talk about building your cabinet. And I call it the kitchen cabinet, but we'll talk more in detail about that. So let's go with my background a little bit. It's kind of scary. Over 20 years ago, actually almost today, tomorrow, I started in this industry. Coming out of college, I had a freshly badly broken leg, was in a cast, had just undergone my fifth surgery at the time. Now I'm at almost 100 surgeries on both legs since then. But and I walked into, or actually I crutched into the office and was handed about 1,000 leads and a phone book and said, call. That doesn't work anymore. So, I became a financial planner. I really, developed a 500-plus annual client practice, but I did it all through networking and through growing. So you can see 500 planning clients in 4 years. I've now created a company called Solve Your Puzzles where for the most part, my clients are yours. Are you, our advisors. I go out there and I help advisors grow their practices, strengthen practices the right way, but I do it still all through networking and referrals. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is really building your professional network and how it can really grow your practice. So your vision, your mission, and your goals are extremely important. You need to really understand what you want to be doing and how you want to be working as a practice, and then eventually as you bring your team in. So the first step is to really understand where you want to go. Stephen Covey mentions this as beginning with the end in mind. And this is what you really want to do. And these are some of the concepts you actually do learn through NAFA, through different programs at NAFA, things like that. But having a very strong vision, and I get it. When you first start, you're checking the pulse on your wrist and probably the pulse on other people's wrists and making sure they can fog a mirror, and you're taking whatever client you want or you can. However, you really need to have that vision of what you want to do. So, for me, I want to help advisors actually solve their clients' puzzles, and I want advisors to actually have strong practices. That's my vision of my company, Solve Your Puzzles. But when I started off as an advisor, my overall goal was to actually work, because of the leg injury I was going with, I wanted to work with small business medical professionals to be able to help them grow their practices in a way that was sustainable and could actually help them support themselves, long term. So I had a very detailed vision, and that's what you're going to really want to have. You need to have and understand what your niche is. And this goes into your vision. If you notice, I talked about, I had a very specific vision. Your mission and your goals need to be very specific as well. And we'll talk about specificity here on the next slide. You also want to see where you see yourself in your practice, not only in the next year, but in the next 5, 10, 15 years, because that's going to help you figure out who the right professional networkers and network you need is going to be. And then how do you see your practice? How do you really see it? Are you going to be just the financial advisor, or are you going to be everything to everybody for your practice? And then what type of team do you want to build into that? NAFA, along with Gamma, actually created a study a couple years ago called Advisor 2020. It's kind of scary. We've been talking about Advisor 2020 for 4 years, and next year it's 2020. But one of the things that they talked about was that advisors would actually be more of a teaming practice. And you're probably seeing it with a lot of companies, especially the career companies out there, are talking about team. A, because they found that teaming practices actually stay around longer. But B, because they found that teaming practices actually serve their clients better as well. So this is what you want to look at, is what do you want to see your practice be? Are you just going to be a pure solo practitioner, or are you going to have different people in there? And that's going to help figure out how you want to build your professional network. So let's talk about building that network. There's an old saying that when you're working with tools, measure twice, cut once. Well, in this case, it's kind of the same thing. You do want to measure and look at things on a regular basis. So you want to have a plan. This plan is a lot like your blueprint. You want to have a blueprint of building your practice. So if you've ever seen a blueprint of when you're building your house, or a blueprint of a building, it's very detailed. It talks about where exactly the outlets are going to be and the plumbing and all that. You want to have a very detailed plan as well on how you can actually build your practice. And this is, if you remember, I talked about with the vision, you want to be specific. You want to have very detailed, very specific factors in there so that you can accomplish what you want. Will you actually accomplish everything in your plan? Probably not. Studies show about 95% of what's written down gets accomplished, but that's 95%. What we do know is only 35% or less of what's not written down will get accomplished. So what would you rather have? 95% of what you wrote down, or 35% of what you are hoping for? So I'd rather have the 95%. You want to be selective. So again, this is about being specific. So when I'm building my plan, the types of advisors I work with for the most part are PNC, health insurance, benefit people, as well as RIAs, investment advisors, because I know that I can bring my specific skill sets to help build their specific practices and help keep more clients. But I also do have some of my own clients on the side in my boutique practice, and I'm very specific with it. I work with chiropractors, lawyers, young lawyers, and then also young engineers and architects that are sole practitioners or in a partnership of their own business. So notice I didn't say small business owners. Notice I didn't just say, oh, I want to work with people that are high net worth. I'm very specific and selective with the particular plans, and the clients that I want to work with. What that allows me to do is then allows me to be able to select different places to go. So chiropractors. I'm a member of the Austin Chiropractors Association, and by extension, the Texas Chiropractors Association. I work with chiropractors. I've gone in there and I actually talk about, the different issues about their practice. I've learned what those are by working with them inside their chiropractor association. Just like Zach mentioned, I lobby on behalf of NAFA, with government relations. I'm also the government relations chair for the Austin Chiropractic Association. So I know what the government pieces are to really help them, and that gets me out there. You need to understand your overall goal. Understand what you want to accomplish, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. And this goes back to that plan and being selective. So if your plan is only for the next 3 months, you're not going to really understand your goal. You have to understand where you're with the end in mind, where you want to see yourself 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Understand the clients you want to go after as well. They need to all fit into that plan. If you're going to go after chiropractors, let's just say, for example, then you need to really understand what their issues are, their student loan issues, what it costs to actually open a practice in your area, where all those different situations might come from. I live in Austin, Texas, and like I said, I work with young engineers. One of the things that I do is I have networked with the engineering department at University of Texas, but also an hour and a half away, the engineering department at A&M, two of the top engineering departments in the country. I've been working with their professors and helping them actually help put together a class to teach business planning to these engineers, because a lot of these engineers don't just go to work for a company. A lot of them may work for a company for a couple years, but they eventually go out and open their own business, their own consulting firm, whatever it might be. And so I'm giving them some of the skills, and now I've become that expert in the field. You want to build those connections, and that's part of the connections I'm talking about, is you really want to build connections in the field. That's part of my professional network. Remember what I said at the beginning. Your professional network isn't necessarily just a lawyer, an attorney, and maybe a P&C agent or a life and health agent if you already are a P&C agent. But one of the things that your professional network is going to be, it's going to be people that are going to help you grow and build your business. They may not actively be referring people every day, but they're people that you can rely on, that you can talk to, that you can network with, that are going to put you in the position to be able to grow and build. So again, like my example with the engineering department, and I speak there on a regular basis. At both those schools, I'm driving out there once a month. I teach business planning. I teach, financial planning. I teach, how to deal with student loans, different things on that, so that they see that I know their issues, and that when they're ready to work with someone, they have me. So that leads me to the next point, is this is a marathon, not a sprint. You cannot put a professional network together and expect it in 2 months or 3 months to be giving you 50 referrals a month. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I am now getting 10 to 25 what I call really strong referrals each and every single month, which allows me to keep growing my practice. When I opened up Solve Your Puzzles about 8 years ago, I've done the same thing. And I started building that same network, joining associations, joining committees, doing different things, which we'll talk a little bit more about here in a second. And now 8 years in, I'm getting 10 to 15 referrals from advisors for other advisors to help them in their practice. So it takes a lot of time. And so yes, you have to do other things along the way, but you can't just immediately walk in and meet with, let's say, a CPA and say, all right, great, I want to have, you give me referrals. Well, they're not going to do that. In fact, when I started in this practice, this business as a financial advisor, I was told you need to build a network of lawyers and CPAs. So what did I do? I opened up the phone book. I called over 40 lawyers, 40 CPAs. I had 40 lunches and coffees. After spending a bunch of dollars later, I ended up with about 20 people between both that we decided to have a little bit of a business relationship with. But then 4 months into it, I hadn't talked to them, realized I hadn't gotten a single referral. I referred a couple people to them, and I called them up. They're like, well, I work with a lot of financial advisors. I work with a lot of stuff, so I can't just give you referrals. So I started to learn that my professional network isn't just names. It's got to be people I build a really strong relationship with that I can be almost exclusive with. So again, that comes down to being a marathon, not a sprint. So let's talk about, there's a lot of tools you can do this. I'm going to go to the middle first, and that is associations. I am a member of 20 associations. When I created my plan 20 years ago, I said I wanted to join an association every single year. So I'm one per year. And I started off with associations that really helped my particular practice and the focus that I was working with. So like I said, I'm a member of the Chiropractic Association. I'm a member of the Orthodontic Association, the Orthopedics Association, the Dental Association, the local bar, and also CPA associations, and multiple other ones, because my focus is working on small business practitioners that in those particular fields. So I get to know what their issues are. Believe it or not, I'm on their government relations committees on almost every single one of those associations. That's how I'm involved in that particular association. But some people, I've seen some people with some other associations, like maybe the Nurses Association of Salt Lake City, for example. I know an advisor I work with that actually is the membership chair. How awesome is that? They have to go out and do a presentation to 100 nurses every month about the beauties of the associations, and then they can talk about how they're the only advisor that's serving that chapter and they're the membership chair. Just think what that provides as far as marketing and help and assistance and getting their name out there. Okay, so you do want to be an association, but if member of an association, remember what I talked about. You want to be selective. Like I said, I've joined 20 associations. I'm a member of 20 associations. 5 of them are industry related because a lot of my clients now are in the industry, but 15 are still out there, both for networking for within the industry, but also for finding my own boutique clients. But again, like I said, you want to be selective. You want to also find with those associations, you want where they're doing regular meetings. I like to say that they're meeting at least every other month, but really ideally you want something where they're meeting every month because you want to get your name out there. You want to be there. Every Thursday, I am at 1 or 2 association meetings. So it's one of those things where it's this Thursday I actually have 4. The way it works out. So you just need to really have that planned out and figure out how you can actually work that into your practice, but you got to make a commitment to it. Another great tool is LinkedIn. I am networked across all over the country, and in fact, I have some networking even in Europe and Australia, where I've become a really top what's called fiduciary advisor expert, where how to set up a fiduciary practice. So I get calls, I get emails all over the place. The thing with LinkedIn, though, is LinkedIn is not going to happen overnight. With LinkedIn, you need to really work at it. You need to be aggressive. Now, you might have specific compliance rules you have to follow. So definitely check your compliance manual, your guidelines on that, because you don't want to run afoul of that either. You might be limited in what you can post, but I post all my activities on there. If I'm speaking in front of advisors, I post that. If I'm at a networking session, I post that. I post all the different things that I do so that the constant activity keeps pushing my profile up, and that gets people to really see what the next step is. I do post articles on there. I write articles, I get them compliance approved, I put them on there. I also use already prefabricated articles from my compliance department, and I put those on there as well. I probably post about 20 to 30 times a day, whether they're posts that I've written myself or they're the automated posts. I try to get as much activity going on there so that I'm at the top of page views as much as possible. The other thing that I do is when I do networking and I am going through someone on LinkedIn, I actually set up, every Monday from 8 to 9 a.m. Central Time, I am writing messages to about 10 to 20 people on my network, just checking in with them. How are you doing? But more importantly, how can I help you grow your business today? How can I help you in your business today or this week? I try to send out 10 to 20 of those a week. I've got over 5,000 connections. So it takes me about 2 years to get through everybody. But I try to do as much as possible. Now, if you only have 200 connections, you may not want to do 10 or 20 a week because it might take you, that's only going to take you a few months to get through, and maybe you don't want to be in contact with them as much as much as that. But I have regular messages going back and forth, talking to people, getting my name out there. Also, LinkedIn has a great tool that, because I do travel around a lot and I'm in a lot of cities, every time I'm in a different city, every time I'm traveling someplace different, I will look at who do I have in that city, and I'll try to set up a coffee or a dinner or a drink or whatever. So when I was in DC last week, I actually had 10 meetings with some of my DC connections that weren't already at the conference. I met them for breakfast, I met them for coffee, and I was only there for 3 days. So I keep my schedule pretty full, but I'm always sitting there talking to them about networking and how I can help them. The beauty is when I say how can I help them, all of a sudden they start to come back to how can I help you? And then also your clients. If you've got clients in a specific group that really fit, that are a good match of what you want to accomplish, that's a really great idea and folks that you want to move forward with. So figure out how you can network with those clients and get into their situation. We talked about associations. Maybe your clients are members of associations. Maybe they're members of a club where all the doctors in the town, belong, or all the lawyers, or whatever it might be. See if you can join that. You have to be creative, but you have to be selective. All right, so for you millennials out there, you might not know what this game is, but it's called Connect Four. It's something I grew up on. It's how to me, it's Tetris before Tetris was alive. But it's basically you playing tic-tac-toe on with checkers on a plastic board. But that's how I look at it with building your cabinet. Your cabinet to me is like building a kitchen cabinet. You want to have a cabinet of advisors that are your trusted advisors, that are your go-to people. So you might have 8 or 10 estate lawyers or 8 or 10 divorce lawyers, whatever it might be, that are all part of your network, but you are going to really want to be specific to have 4 to 7 people that you can bring together and you can ask advice on how to build your practice, how to build your business, but also how to go about doing different things. And maybe you might have an estate lawyer that is your go-to for certain areas. Like, for example, on my kitchen cabinet, since I am autistic, I have Asperger's, so special needs is extremely important to me. I have on my kitchen cabinet, I have an estate lawyer that all they do is special needs, because I tend to work a lot and come across a lot of special needs issues. So I want someone that I'm really comfortable with, that can really help me educate me in the market, in the knowledge base, and also help the advisors I work with that may not come across it as much, but really get them connected. So you need to have people you can count on, people that are going to tell it to you straight, but also people that you can tell to them straight as well. These might be your connections. They might be part of your professional network. They might be your clients. But personally, I probably wouldn't have my client as part of my kitchen cabinet per se, but I would have them potentially as part of my professional network if they're in the area I'm focusing on. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. Are there any questions?
All right. Questions? Then Rodney, thank you so much. Fantastic as always.
Yeah. Zach, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I hope everyone has a great rest of their week.
All right. Have a great week.
Take care.